Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a really interesting combo that I'm excited to try out. It's a new shell that we haven't tested. However, we have tried some of their other different gauges of shells with some pretty nice results, but I think this is going to be a pretty interesting combo. This shot size with this load and this particular shotgun and choke combo might work out surprisingly nice for us. I know several of you guys seem to always suggest that we run this particular choke combo as well, so this should kind of cover a lot of different bases here, and hopefully we get a pretty decent looking result out of it. But first up, for the shell that I got today, I picked up some more of these Rogue TSS turkey loads. These ones though are a 12 gauge, 3-inch, 2 1/4 ounce payload of TSS 7s, moving about 1190 feet per second. We really haven't done a lot of testing when it comes to TSS shot larger than especially 8s. Usually it's 9s, but I know that at least a couple years ago, there were still states that had a minimum size restriction where you had to run like 8s or larger or 7s and larger and stuff like that. So this is a pretty interesting shell for sure. It's a pretty stout payload in a 3-inch shell with a larger shot size, so it should be pretty interesting to run these through several different chokes and several different constrictions and see what they like and don't like, or if they are just kind of good shooters across the board. Rogue makes some good stuff, so we'll see what we can get. Before the setup we're running them in today, I brought out my Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, and we're going to be running the stock Ulti-Full turkey choke. This is a 695 constriction. These 835s came with a couple different turkey chokes over the years. Mine here actually came with a flush turkey choke called the Turkey Full, but this is one that was very common for these 835s and 935s. It's given us some pretty nice results with TSS before, even though it technically is a lead only choke. A lot of times back in this era, that meant just don't shoot steel shot through it, because that was before TSS really became much of a thing. Either way, this should be a pretty interesting combo. These 835s are an overboard shotgun, meaning that the bore diameter inside is 10 gauge. 695 is very much the average turkey choke constriction for these. But all of that being said, it might give us a little bit more breathing room with these TSS 7s, which could very well work out nicely in our favor. So I figured we'll start here, give ourselves a little more breathing room, and then based on what we see, we can choke it down in some other setups and stuff like that and see what happens. But this could work out surprisingly well. But for today's test, we're running it the same as we usually do. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards and the chrono to get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target, and we'll see what these Rogue TSS 7s can actually do through the 835 and the stock choke. I've got good hopes for it if everything works out the way that I think it might, but let's take our shot and just see what we can get. And just hopping in voiceover here to say that's a good representation for the energy difference these carry as well, being a TSS 7 versus a 9, because we could see there in that shot, it blew a bunch of wood chunks out of the back of that pallet, whereas that doesn't typically happen with the smaller shot. Alright, that shell gave us 1144 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1190, so we are a little bit below that, but that could have a little bit to do with us having an overboard shotgun, maybe losing just a tiny little bit of pressure behind it, potentially anyway, but still mid 1100s for a TSS 7 is plenty enough out to 40 yards for a turkey, no doubt about it. And these shells are very stout recoiling as well. They are up there close to a 3.5-inch shell, I would say. So if you don't like recoil, these shells probably aren't the loading for you. It's a big heavy pellet and a lot of payload. But did they actually pattern well through our 835 with the stock choke? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so here we are down at our 40-yard paper. We definitely see some very interesting results with this pattern for sure. Do we have a dead bird at 40 yards? Yes, absolutely so. There's one right through the eyeball and a nice hot cluster right through the center of his neck. And there's nowhere up, down, left, or right he can move to and get through that pattern. So it is absolutely going to do the job at 40 yards, no doubt about it. That's a pretty hot little core area there for sure. Now backing up and looking at the entire thing to start with here, it's definitely a little bit on the goofier side. We have a really tight little hot zone right in our core area, across that bird's neck. But as soon as we get outside of essentially what is that 5-inch circle ring, we start getting pretty splotchy and throwing stuff a little bit all over the place. We've got that really hot core there. It's a TSS 7, so with the larger pellets, you're going to be carrying good energy, but you're not going to have quite as many pellets as you would in a 9-shot or something like that as well. So still very hot core, but it gets a little bit thin. We've got a void over here kind of behind his head. It's a little bit thin up there towards the top, and down at the bottom we thin out pretty quick as well. And outside of that turkey target, we have our fair share of flyers. Even those ones on the old sheets up there are from this pattern. That continues all the way around the right and down at the very bottom as well, and still some splotchy stuff over there off the left. So really not the most even pattern overall. And I figured if anything, we would probably get a decently even spread through that 695. That stock choke usually gives us pretty decent coverage without really blowing stuff all over the place. And this one is a little goofy. On one hand, it kind of looks like it tried to blow out on us because of the straggly stuff around the edges, but even right down pretty much to that central core area, we still get splotchy until we get inside of that 5-inch ring. So is it too much constriction? Is it not enough to tune in the edges? Or is it a case of these shells don't like the overbore going down to a 695 at the end? I don't really know just yet. This is the first test we've done with these. We don't have a lot of experience with larger TSS pellets like 7s when it comes to turkey shells anyway. So this is going to take some testing and seeing what it likes. Maybe when it comes to stock chokes in an 835, these may have done a little bit better, or at least given us a little more even of a spread in the stock choke that actually came with my particular 835. The flush turkey full is what Mossberg calls it. That's a 710 constriction, which is essentially an extra full choke for that gun. They might have done a little better with that, a little less constriction, but we don't really know just yet. I think we need to try these through both a little tighter and a little more open in some different setups, some standard bore 12 gauge stuff as well, like an 870 or a Mossberg 500, and really get a good idea on what these like and don't like. This is a good turkey pattern, don't get me wrong. It's plenty capable at 40 yards, and you could push that to 45 and probably 50 and still be fine with how tight that little core area is. But the edges are obviously not all that amazing. So we have some fine-tuning work to do for sure on these. This gives us a good baseline to work off of, and I think we're going to figure out pretty quick whether these prefer a little more or a little less constriction. Stock Mossberg chokes are usually pretty good. This one is still a decent pattern. You wouldn't have to go out and find an aftermarket choke if you wanted to run this combo, but I think it might do us some good as we continue testing some more aftermarket chokes. So pretty interesting results here today. Not exactly what I was expecting to see. It's both pretty impressive for that core and also not super impressive as soon as we get outside of that core. So a little bit on the fence. Pretty interesting to see. Not exactly what I expected. And it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to continue testing these through some other combos. And here's the wad from that shell. Nothing fancy or special to see. No major damage, nothing stuck down in there. Looks perfectly fine overall. It went through a 695 choke, but it's a larger pellet as well. But it didn't tear anything up, and even though that choke is technically a lead only choke, it's still perfectly fine to run stuff like this through it. They just didn't want the old big steel shot duck loads and stuff before we had TSS anyway. So nothing special to see here out of this wad. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that result right there? Pretty interesting result for sure. Some people are really going to like that nice tight little core area we've got there. Other people are going to want a little bit more even of a spread. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I like the hot cores and I like this one as well, but I definitely would like to see some of those edges cleaned up and brought in just a little bit. I don't mind having a little bit more of a broad spread, but if it is a little more broad, I'd like it to be pretty even throughout, and we definitely have some splotchiness going on here. Some hot spots, some strings and flyers and stuff around the edges. So we have some work to do for sure. And you guys will have to let me know what choke and setup combos do you want to see me run these through, because they're not exactly cheap, and I want to make sure I test them through as many combos as you guys actually want to see. So let me know all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Rogue TSS shells or their 7-shot loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a pattern or a combo you would hunt with? Or would you prefer to see it a little tighter, a little more condensed, a little more even? Or are you looking for a pattern like that that's got that nice tight little hot ball of a core and don't mind having a little bit of straggly stuff outside of it? And like I just said, what other combos do you want to see me run these shells through? I've got some ideas, but let me know what you guys want to see. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.